let's talk about a word that probably makes you think of modern offices, endless meetings, and maybe, a little bit of stress: management. But what if I told you that the real story of management doesn't start with spreadsheets and PowerPoints, but with clay tablets and pyramids? Let's dive in, because this history is definitely not what you think.
Okay, so let's try a quick thought experiment. When I say the word management, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? I'm willing to bet that's something from right now, not from thousands of years ago. You're probably picturing, what, shiny corporate boardrooms, maybe some scary-looking spreadsheets, or hearing all that business jargon we'd love to make fun of. Or, if you're a history buff, you might think of scientific management from the Industrial Revolution. All very modern stuff, right?
Well, what if I told you that's all just the latest chapter in a story that's thousands and thousands of years old? What if the real core challenges of management, like organizing people and tracking resources, were already being solved way back when the pyramids were just an idea?
So our journey is going to start in ancient Sumer in Mesopotamia, about 5,500 years ago. This is where we find the world's very first information systems. And no, they weren't powered by silicon chips. They were made of good old-fashioned clay. And here's the part that'll blow your mind. Writing wasn't invented for poetry or for telling epic stories. Nope. Its very first job was all business. It was invented to be a tool for management. It was created simply to keep track of stuff. The Sumerians came up with one of the first writing systems, called cuneiform, and they used it to record, well, everything. Just think about it for a second. You have temple administrators using these clay tablets to track how much grain they have, how many sheep are in the flock, and who still owes their taxes. It was quite literally the world's first spreadsheet.
And when you put them side by side like this, the connection is just undeniable. The Sumerians used a clay tablet to track grain and livestock. Today, a manager pulls up a digital dashboard to track inventory and sales. The tools are worlds apart, sure, but the fundamental job, tracking resources and making sure everyone's on the same page, that is exactly the same.
So the Sumerians totally mastered tracking things. But what about organizing people? I mean, lots of people. For that, we're going to head over to ancient Egypt, where they took on one of the biggest management challenges in all of human history, building the pyramids.
2.3 million. That is the estimated number of massive stone blocks, each one weighing as much as a car, that had to be cut, moved, and perfectly placed just to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. This wasn't just a construction project, it was a management miracle.
So how on earth did they do it? Well, they used principles that any modern project manager would recognize immediately. They divided up the labor, with specialized teams for every job. They had a clear chain of command, a hierarchy. They even understood the concept of span of control, this idea that one boss can only really manage a small group effectively, in their case, about 10 workers. And powering it all was this huge logistics operation, making sure everyone had food, tools, and a place to sleep. So, the next time you see a picture of the pyramids, don't just see an architectural wonder. See it for what it really is, a masterpiece of project management. It's an incredible testament to what we can do when you can coordinate thousands of people toward a single, massive goal. Okay, so we've seen how they tracked information and how they organized these enormous projects. But what about managing the actual people? The human element. For that, we're going to look at what were basically the first ever HR manuals from ancient Babylon and China. In Babylon, you've got the famous Code of Hammurabi. And it wasn't just a list of don't do this, don't do that. It was pretty much a business rule book. It set clear standards for quality, like if a builder's house fell down, the builder was in big trouble. It defined contracts and wages. It created a stable, predictable system where people knew the rules. Sound familiar? It should. And it wasn't all about punishment either. They absolutely understood the power of rewards. We have records showing that King Nebuchadnezzar paid weavers based on how much cloth they actually produced. If you made more, you got more food. It's one of the earliest examples of a performance-based incentive, a commission or a bonus. And we see these kinds of management innovations all across the ancient world. Babylon gave us rules for quality control. Rome was obsessed with standardization. But ancient China, well, they introduced an idea that was truly revolutionary for the time. This was a total game changer. In ancient China, government officials weren't chosen because of who their father was. They had to pass a difficult exam. Your job depended on what you knew, not who you knew. This idea of hiring and promoting people based on merit is the direct ancestor of pretty much every job interview and professional test we have today.
So we've gone from Sumerian spreadsheets to Egyptian project plans and Babylonian HR policies. But what does any of this have to do with our world of AI, remote work, and agile development? Why does this ancient history still matter?
Now, let's be crystal clear. A lot has changed, and mostly for the better. The most important thing is our ethics. Ancient management was often built on coercion, on slavery. Today we operate with, or at least we strive for, a respect for human rights. And yeah, our tools have evolved from clay tablets to artificial intelligence. But the core problems, they are shockingly similar. How do you get a bunch of people to work together? How do you allocate resources? How do you motivate them to do their best work? Those challenges are absolutely timeless. So, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. The fundamental problems of management are universal. Technology will always change, but the core functions, planning, organizing, leading, they're always going to be with us. And the need for clear rules, fair incentives, and simply finding good, competent people, that is never, ever going out of style. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The tools will always get better, fancier, faster. They'll go from clay tablets to quantum computers. But that fundamental, messy, wonderful challenge of coordinating human effort to achieve something amazing together, that's a permanent part of our story.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. As we race into a future that's dominated by AI and automation, what timeless lessons about motivating, organizing, and leading people can we still learn from those who managed to build empires with nothing more than clay, papyrus, and pure human ingenuity? Thanks for joining me.